Hello, everybody. This is Diane Broussard, and I'm coming to you live from the Diamond Center here in Diamond Springs, Northern California. And I'm so excited today because I have a very special guest. Her name is Michele Castro, and we are going to be channeling Isis today. So Michele is an international channel of the Black Goddess Isis and mental health specialist who blends her contemporary studies of spiritual and somatic psychology. Michele was first visited by the Black Goddess Isis at the funeral of her Italian aunt and received a transmission of the mystic rose. Michele also works with Julianne Kennard of the Stargate Experience in her Essence of Life series, where she brings through the energies of Isis to guide people in embodied experiences of awakening to the mysteries. Michele holds a degree in transpersonal psychology and a master's in integrative psychology. So I'm just really, really happy today to introduce you to Michele. And I'm going to ask Michele to kind of fill in the blanks. How do you do this, Michele? How did you meet Isis? And how do you use the knowledge that you have from the Stargate experience, your connection with Isis, into your transpersonal psychology? And I know that you work with a lot of people that are at risk. So if you could come in a little bit and tell us about who you are and how this works for you.
Sure, my pleasure. This work started many years ago. As you know, I was a student of transpersonal psychology, and in my young 20s, I've always been a spiritual seeker. I was trained in a lot of Gnostic, traditional, esoteric studies and archetypal work, mythology. I studied a lot of Joseph Campbell, a lot of Carl Jung, and I've always been very fascinated with psychology and being in service of others. I had my own very deep grief portal, which started at the funeral of my Italian aunt. And while I was at her funeral, overcoming this grief and this sadness, I was taken over. I was flooded with this experience that was quite transcendent. And I didn't really understand it that much, although I could finally understand her. I could understand why this woman was such a devout Catholic, and that it wasn't necessarily the priest or the Pope or the words. It was to Mary, and it was to the goddess. She was so devout to the divine feminine, yet it was in such a broken way. And that opened me up to a series of events that were also quite tragic in my life, and where I had to really go through that dark night of the soul. And through that, I had a few other visits of this experience of being flooded with the Great Mother, with the goddess, and still not really understanding that. And when I started doing the Stargate work, that's where I was really confronted with some of these early childhood traumatic experiences that occurred. And I, through my own intuition, found some healers, found some great therapists, found some great information. And what happened was I was doing this multidimensional work, and then decided to go back to school and get this degree, understanding about somatic psychology, understanding about what is embodiment, and embodiment being this process of working with the internal experience of our body and being with what is, learning to actually be able to sit with what is. And when I was doing that work, it was very confusing because I knew that there was some special thing that I was going to do, that I was not going to be this traditional therapist. And I would get these giggling guides that would just sit and laugh. And I would have these very synchronistic experiences where a woman came up to me and said, an angel has just come and has a message for you. And her name is Suzanne, which is the name of my aunt. And she said, you and some beings, you're going to write a book together one day, and you're going to work together, and you're going to bring this forward to humanity. Just as I'm sitting in a cafe writing, minding my own business, I was guided through this mystery. And then when it was, I think 2020, when I was working with Julianne a little bit, she had just released her Essence of Life work, and I started doing that. We were playing around with some of these concepts and some of these ideas, and that really inspired me. And then when I was actually in a Stargate meditation, it was a New Year's Stargate gathering, I was flooded with this presence of the goddess, and it was Isis. She actually announced her name. She announced herself. And I worked with that privately for a very long time and didn't really know anything about Isis, didn't know anything about what she had to bring to humanity, who she was, how she worked. I knew nothing. And through this journey, through this unfolding process that she has led me on, I am learning more and more, and I'm learning to step aside and allow her to come in and bring forward what she is wanting to bring to humanity right now.
Wow. I have to tell you, because I also work with Stargate and Julianne and you, and that's how I got to know you. And what attracted me so much to you, Michele, was your passion. It was like you have this inside fire and this passion about, there's something I really need to do. And I know that comes from you touching bases with Isis. So I'm really, really excited to have you bring Isis in today, now, because I would like to ask Isis herself, who is Isis? Like I said before, I mentioned Isis to my mother, and she did not know who she was. People that have all kinds of ideas about who this person might be, if she is or not. And I really, really, really would like to touch bases with Isis, because I know that she is very, very instrumental in what's happening to humanity at this time. So I'm hoping that you're going to be able to bring Isis in, and I can ask her these questions.
Sure. We could definitely do that. How you want to do that is up to you. If you want me to just bring that energy in right now.
My biggest question is, and this is like so generic, okay, because this is for humanity. This is for so many people watching this that are going, oh yeah, we've seen hieroglyphics and we've heard stories and we see pictures of Isis, and who is she? And she was not real. And she was, we know about Hathor and Osiris. Who is Isis? Mm-hmm. Who is Isis? When did she live on Earth? And what was her lifespan? I mean, I really want to know, and I want others to know the questions they always ask. So we know who we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, I mean, we can ask her that. And I will be honest, I have never brought forward Isis and had her answer these very technical questions of, I lived on Earth from this time to this time, and I did this and I did this, and give people this like reel of information. What keeps coming through Isis is that she's a mystery to be pierced, that we are piercing the veil of the mystery. We are piercing the veil of Isis. And as we look through this trajectory of our human history, and we see that the Isis myth, it kind of shifted. I'm open, and I'm open to what comes through. And what seems to be always what comes through is this perfect message for what we need rather than what we think we need. So I'm just going to kind of use that as a disclaimer before I bring her in, because I've had some angry people before and then wind up having these huge epiphanies because what she has delivered actually was the most perfect thing they could possibly imagine. So I've learned to trust it, and I'm curious about these things too. Because I really had no understanding of who Isis was. Yet what I'm aware of is that she was the most worshipped goddess on earth, that there was not a country or a land where she wasn't worshipped. And she was known as the goddess of, I think, 10,000 names, because she kept changing. As a matter of fact, in Egypt, she's known as Aset. And it was in the Mediterranean that she's known as Isis. There's a huge possibility that in your lineage, because you look pretty European, that your ancestors, just as mine, have worshipped Isis.
I go back to the ancient golden age of Lemuria, and so I'm looking at the ancient golden age of Egypt. And so for my own self, I'm seeing Isis as in a higher dimensional frequency than we are here in our 3D time on Earth right now. So there's many people that are questioning, who was she, or what was the golden age of Egypt and what happened during that time. So I'm kind of trying to ask her a little bit about that, knowing that we're talking about a different dimension. We're talking about a golden age. And the reason I'm asking these questions is because I think that there is something very, very important about the time that Isis ruled over this golden age of Egypt, and what we can learn from that about this new golden age that we are all working towards here as a conscious humanity on Earth today. And so I believe that it's important to know from Isis what happened during that time, and what was the fall of Egypt? What happened? How did we go into this dark age? And now we're coming out of it again. And I believe that's why she's here, because she can escort us and help us with knowledge that will help us understand what happened during that time so that it doesn't happen during this time. And I believe that she's really here now to help a lot of us understand that time period. And for many people, they don't even know about the golden age of Egypt or what it was. So that's where my questioning comes from to Isis.
So then should we just bring in Isis? Because I can't answer these questions for you.
No.
Okay, so whenever I am calling in Isis, I always invite myself and whoever is gathered with me to just ground themselves, to bring themselves as fully present into this moment as we can. So just beginning to feel your feet on the ground, feeling where your back makes contact, or your bum makes contact with the seat beneath you. Just settling. The way that I contact Isis is that there's a felt sense of her. There is this almost this vision that I receive of this veil being parted, and that energy comes forward from that veil. And it's this felt sense that I follow. Sometimes if I am out, I get distracted, I can just come back to that felt sense. And I share that because it's a way for everybody to start opening their own self and start to feel their own connection, to begin to embody and physically feel that connection with the goddess, with whatever being, whatever guide, whatever angel that you're wishing to commune with. Dearest ones, It is I, Isis. And I welcome you into the mysteries, into this journey that is the human experience. Now, dearest, I understand your curiosities. And what we must share first is this understanding that just like all other cycles of this universe, evolution, dearest, is cyclical. So when we say this, evolution is cyclical, what we mean is that this golden age that you speak of, this time of Lemuria, this time of your ancestors, of your Atlantis, when their societies were functioning at their utmost highest potential, that was the moment that the cycle began to come back down again. And we started to experience gradually what is known as the fall. Now, as humanity has moved down towards into the fall, there was a time that in your timeline is known as the Dark Ages, when humanity became so stricken with their own animal forces. They had no connection to God. They had no connection to themselves as an evolved being. They only saw their relationship to matter. This is when my beloved and I, Osiris, and me incarnated during this dark period to bring about a sense of civility, to bring about a sense of peace, to guide this beloved human experience. For as many know, the human experience is part of a great initiation. And that initiation process, it involves forgetting. It involves becoming so, how do we say, so attached to these physical, mundane experiences without any connection to anything rather than what is happening on a physical plane. And so in this forgetting, in this shutting down, it was the devotion and love of my beloved and I to come and remind humanity who they are. This is the objective of the Black Goddess. And there are many in my lineage devoted to humanity, devoted to their awakening, to moving them through this initiation portal, moving them through into this experience of knowing they are more than just a mundane being. Now, in this golden time of Egypt that you speak of, yes, as the fall was happening, there were indeed those that did not wish to see human beings evolve. human beings were, for some, just meant to be the worker bees of the gods. Yet it was this other lineage. Sometimes we speak of the dragon bloodline. It was this lineage that was devoted to the awakening of humanity. So, when this fall was occurring, when Lemuria and Atlantis and these advanced civilizations could go no further, and the darkness started to stir, and the chaos started to come, there was great devotion to preserving the knowledge, preserving some of these advanced technologies, advanced understandings. And this, dearest, is why they have moved into this golden age of Egypt. This was the bloodline of the dragon, the primordial mother. This was the bloodline of the gods and goddesses, of your star families that came to enlighten the human race. And over time, of course, those invested in controlling human beings did get their chance to take over. And yet the bloodline continued. It moved to other parts of the world, mixed and merged to create your empires of Scythia. It moved and created what is known as your Celtic traditions. It moved into what is known as the Mayan and the Incan people. Many natives around your world carried these codes. And yet there were many forces that wished to eradicate this truth from humanity, that wished to annihilate. Yet, as you all know, this reality that we live in, it is all oneness. So we must move away from this good versus evil and understand that all flows in the way that it should. Now you ask of this new golden age that is arising. Dearest, around the time when knowledge again was being taken and moved in certain ways to push humanity towards their own evolution, we had this process of what we know through the mysteries, through the stories that are shared, that this time of Isis and Osiris united, serving with one another, this came to an end when this one Set did indeed create such tragedy. Yes, this was horrific. Yes, there is this magical phenomenon that you have heard of, this experience where I, Isis, dove to the bottom of the Nile, retrieving the dismembered parts of my beloved, only to reassemble all except the phallus. There is this experience holds the codes to your evolution. For the divine masculine, without its phallus, stuck in the underworld, cannot penetrate life fully, cannot stand united with me. And yet we were able to create this immaculate conception to bring forward this one known as Horus, who was established as Pharaoh. We incarnated so that we could guide humanity, so that we could protect this bloodline. Now, to speak of this bloodline, it is indeed the same bloodline that courses through Yeshua and the Magdalene. It is the same bloodline that was protected by your beloved Essenes and Cathars, by your Gnostic brothers and sisters and ancestors throughout history. And much tragedy came to many of them. Yet this was also part of a greater initiation. The myth, story, the mystery that Isis held that was suppressed by those that wanted control. Isis, as Black Goddess, the one that descended into matter, the one that has gone first for you to show you that the initiation was the grief portal. It was all of those experiences that occurred throughout your lifetime and those of your ancestors that led you on this journey of soul awakening. And of course, there is still residue. Yet beyond that, these places that you hold grief, that you hold sorrow, that you hold pain, those were also the places where the memories were hidden. And it is within the realm of the body, within the realm of the energetic body, in the DNA, that these mysteries were encoded, that these memories were encoded. You are awakening to your origins now. You are awakening to the truth of who you are. This dragon bloodline. Dearest, why do you think your pharaohs were anointed with crocodile fat? Why do you think I am standing on top of a crocodile. It is not to overcome. It is to show that I am of the house of the dragon. And this bloodline is coming back together. It is strengthening again. The DNA is getting stronger. Imagine a society again that is here to serve and guide and love and protect. And this golden age, dearests, you are already aware that your past, your present, and your future are all in this moment. So indeed, your golden age is here. And yet, where humanity will go together as a society is beyond your imagination. It's beyond what you think could possibly occur. The technologies, the capacities that human beings are going to bring in. Of course, there must be an established amount of safety. There must be an established amount of what this one Michele would call regulation of the emotions and of the nervous system to be able to handle such energies, to be able to work with such energies and not be corrupted by power. There are so many of you gathering, wanting this, putting out in the collective field this desire to bring this in. And what you can accomplish is beyond what you even imagine is possible. And yet it will just keep evolving and evolving and evolving. And of course, as we said, it is cyclical. It ebbs and flows. There is no stopping this now. The momentum has started. These dark forces which wish to just trap consciousness into matter are aware that the goddess has returned. And it is the dark goddess in all of our emanations that brings light into matter, that brings spirit into matter, into the body, into the human, awakening DNA, guiding you through. So one of the most beautiful celebrations right now is this return of Isis, and I awaited this, as this whole lineage of goddesses awaited this. For part of the initiation was the forgetting. Part of the initiation was the grief portal. Yet you were never alone. I was always with you. And my beloved Osiris was the one to steer the boat through your underworld. Dearest, this human experience is the underworld. It is the realm of the shadows. It is the realm of the unseen, the darkness, that which awaits to be revealed. And so, by claiming your connection to I as your beloved mother by claiming your connection with Osiris as that beloved divine masculine father that can steer you through, that can direct you through this experience. We begin to reunite the divine masculine and the divine feminine forces. And through this reunion, we are writing and evolving the myth of humanity, the mythos of humanity. This is how you tap in to that collective energetic field. This myth that can only come through each and every one of you, creating and you reuniting with the God and Goddess again, creating your own connection, your own relationship, healing your own inner feminine and masculine parts, which is what we will help you do. And through this reconciliation, we write a new myth. We revive the lineage that we are part of. So, dearest, is this answering your question, or is there more that you are wishing to understand?
Isis, you have more than answered many of the questions I had on my pages here. I think the last question that I have for you is, I understand what happened. I understand the pain and the grief that we all went through. And I understand that we are all awakening to who we truly are and wanting so much to, again, bring back the divine feminine and the divine masculine into a oneness. And I'm asking you, what is there that we can do? What more can we do as those who are aware of this at this time to bring back this beautiful oneness that you had with Osiris, understanding that, yes, the divine feminine has gone through a lot of pain, and so has the divine masculine. Both have, but we're coming back through, like you talked about, we're coming back up again. What, if there was something I could ask you, what is it that we could do to bring this together?
Dearest, you must be willing to honor the descent, because you cannot ascend unless you descend. And this does not mean diving into situations and calling in these situations that bring tragedy and grief. For many of you have had quite enough of that. Yet understanding that there are layers. The goddess holds the spectrum of the human experience. And for us to be fully integrated, we must realize that it is not something that we say, okay, there is no more shadow, only light. We must be willing to go through both. We must be willing to truly bring forward all of our unintegrated divine feminine and divine masculine parts. Being honest with oneself about what is your true great desires that you did not express? Where can you tap into these places that you have had judgments about in the past, or never been given permission to express and experience? And this does not mean going and having an invitation to become hedonistic. This is not what this is about, for there are many defiling the name of Isis already in this way. This is truly about getting in touch, connecting in to your own creative forces within. And that comes through developing a deeper connection with self. The only way that we can quicken, that we can see humanity move through some of the dark experiences that are already occurring on this planet, is to see the shadow within themselves, to see where perhaps they hold their own inner darkness. Now, much, my dearests, of what this unfolding mystery is about dying to oneself and being reborn into joy, into pleasure, into fertility. And this does not have to mean giving physical birth, bringing forward your creative projects, your desires, your destiny, bringing forward this new earth, these new societies based on greater understandings. Does this make sense, dearest?
So totally makes sense. Thank you. I am so grateful for that knowledge, because I understand, and I hope that others will understand what you're saying is the man in the mirror. We are moving into a new place if we so choose. And we have you and others who are there to assist us through this period of our time. And it's called a rebirth. And it's exciting to me. And I hope it's exciting to those who are listening. And I am very, very grateful for the words you brought through to us today, Isis. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Dearest, the honor and pleasure is mine. And just know, it is not my intention to just speak through this one. It is my intention for each and every one of you to create your own unique connection to me, to awaken, to pierce my veil, to create your own unique reconciliation with the divine. And I will always be with you.
I feel that. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. And hopefully we will return on another day.
I'll come back anytime. Isis will be here anytime.
That was so beautiful, Michele. That answered all the questions I had on my paper and more in such a beautiful way that I think will really touch many people, and in a way they can understand what came through.
Good. sometimes if I get like so in it, I don't even remember what's being said, and I have to kind of go back and listen to it. I feel it, and I think, and it's really amazing because I've just been doing this Sacred Rage course. I'm in the middle of that. I had no idea. I thought I was going to go into this teaching people how to work with anger, because I see this coming up, especially in Stargate. I do it sometimes. I'm like getting angry at Alcazar and, like projecting and all these different things. And so I just saw this trend of this issue with anger. And so I wanted to create this course that I thought was just going to be around, somatic skills and the nervous system. And then Isis was like, oh no, we're doing this together. I'm doing this with you. And then Tiamat, the dragon, started coming in, and I was like, okay, dragons roar, I get it. And then it was just the synchronicities, the research, the things that I was finding, and then what's coming through is all making so much sense, and why I had to start there. It's like bringing us back into our origin, into our primordial mother, and how the dragon Tiamat, the sea goddess, she's the mother of Gaia, and she winds up going into a fury and chaos, and this Marduk, slays her, and from her body comes the earth. She becomes the mountain, she becomes the physical land, she becomes the earth. And then her children go on, and her children, kind of split in, and some of them have these ideas about how they want to guide and aid humanity. Some of them have other ideas, and we see this origin story and how it's actually connected to our nervous system. She is like the reptilian brain, and then when we look at the amygdala of the brain, how that encodes memory, and it's also our fear center. And that's basically was part of the initiation rite, was us having to awaken out of our connection with fear, out of our connection with the trauma, and awaken to understanding that we are more than that this is actually a spiritual experience. And
I think that's what happened when we were talking to Isis. She really kind of smoothed things over. Like, we're going through these realms, we're going up and down and up and down, and it made it seem like it was very simplified in a way as to what's happening, and we don't need to get into such a chaotic state. When we really see what she was talking about is, yes, she went through, and I felt her pain so much with when Osiris went down into the darkness. But the way that she explained it was, this is part of our process of kind of going up, down and up, and she smoothed it out greatly. So I hope that it will really put a wider understanding for people to see that we're just going through it, guys.
We have that opportunity again, like I said, that amygdala of our brain. This was my big aha in my own unraveling the mysteries of, we can either attach to the fear, or we can go deeper and bring our curiosity to the memories and open ourselves to the memories. So we have to be careful to not get so attached to the fear, and just know that this is just part of it. And how many times those of us that do Stargate know, Alcazar talks about this all the time, but this really helped me embody that deeper. I was like, oh wow, okay.
Because this was something I was looking at too, it hit me like probably 5 times recently, really, really heavy people that are in a deep fear mode coming at me and really, really testing me. And I had to go through each one of them to see how I could rise above it and understand what they were going through and not bring it upon myself. And I think that's what we're really called to do right now, is to be able to see that, not take it on, see it, go through it, and just be with it. See, this is, wow, it's really amazing. And it brings you into places, if you so choose, that you may never have been before. And and it's always people close to you, and they're bringing in this fear, and you can sit with it and feel really uncomfortable, or you can say, wow, here's another opportunity for me to go deeper and come out a little bit higher. Yeah.
And create some boundaries. That's really, as the divine feminine rising, and it's definitely, I'd say a feminine quality is that capacity to just say, to really be in our fierce no. No, I don't want to take that on. No, I don't have to be the people pleaser. No, I don't have to to accept that. I can continue to come back to my own reality and my own understanding of why I'm here and what I'm doing and what the possibilities are. And if we don't cultivate those boundaries, then we won't be able to bring forth this new information, because we're being tested everywhere. Every institution would test our belief systems and what we know we're capable of.
This goes into those who really, really, really want to tap into this knowledge and experience of Isis, that she is there for all of us now. And not only her, but many guides. So we're not alone here. We're going through something, but we are like so blessed to have these amazing goddesses and beings around us now to say, we're here. It's okay. We can do this. And we didn't have that before. Not only that, we didn't have permission to say, guess what? Isis has been talking to me, and let people listen.
I said I still don't tell a lot of people that. I mean, unless I know they're ready for it.
Exactly.
And they have to be ready for what comes forward, because as Dark Goddess, she is the one that brings forward the quickening. She is going to tell you what you need to hear in the moment and not what you want to hear. And you have to be willing to move past your identity with this world. And it's interesting. I even have friends that are in the yoga community that are so willing to chant to all the Hindu deities and gods and goddesses. Yet this is part of our ancestry. This is part of our lineage. And when this started coming through to me, I am aware that I like I said, I had no understanding. And I was actually in my birthplace in New Jersey at this very special place of mine. It's the ocean, the tip of New Jersey, where the river, so it's an estuary that comes in and it creates this sand hook. So it's called Sandy Hook, and it actually has the oldest lighthouse in the United States there. And it's a very beautiful wooded area. And while I was there, it was, Isis had already come through, but I kept getting this imprint of Isis Aphrodite, Isis Aphrodite, Isis Aphrodite. And then really feeling that energy and really beginning to start welcoming that aspect into myself. And as part of this mystery unfolding, what I soon discovered was that the Isis Aphrodite was worshipped in all through the Mediterranean basin. And that the Isis myth, Isis, is Horus, chops her head off and Thoth puts on the head of the cow. And that's when she becomes a Set Hathor. If you are open and you are listening, and you don't even have to know what it is at first, but this is how she can come through to you, through these little inklings, through these experiences, these energetic experiences that feel like you're just being flooded with a mystery. And if it's always this process of having to kind of unfold into it. So when you have these aha moments, don't discredit, don't disregard them, and don't try to make more meaning of it than it is, because it will reveal itself to you.
I'm just so grateful that you were here today. I think that we have some wonderful information from those who, are going to be listening to us. I know that you offer some counseling sessions on your own, and if you'd like to talk a little bit about that at this time.
Right now, I am running a course called Sacred Rage. It's basically been guided towards our Stargate community, and it's open to everyone. And I put on different courses throughout the year. I also offer individual sessions where I bring in some of my own embodiment and my own psychology, and I bring in Isis. And I always say Isis uses my data bank as well and will guide people through an experience. And I also do group classes. I'm at this place of playing around with putting together some immersion workshops, some in-person workshops.
So why is channeling so important in our research of consciousness?
Well, I mean, I think that there's many definitions of what channeling is, and I am not here to argue or define exactly what that is. I know that it's an experience. And personally, when I started channeling, it was this experience where I began to feel like I was flooded with a transcendent experience. And it was this awareness that I am more than just this egoic person with this agenda. And so channeling is this capacity to kind of step away, to step outside of ourselves, and to allow something greater to come forward without the mind getting too much involved. If you can tell, the way that I'm speaking now is very differently. When I'm in my channeling space, it just flows, it just comes. And I believe that for me personally, it's a very embodied experience. It's where memories come from. It's where we have this interface between heaven and earth, between these different realms, and that we can actually connect into these realms through within our own self. So when we open ourselves up to receive this channeled information, we're opening ourselves up to aspects that are greater than what we identify in this waking mundane world. And as far as consciousness, if you follow any of the research that has been done within the evolution of human consciousness and transpersonal psychology, that this time is about waking up and becoming more in identification with those parts of ourselves that are greater than just our small lower mind, and that we're bringing the more of our soul self here to earth. Because when we're channeling, we're tapping into the Akashic records. We're tapping into the memories of our origin that have been destroyed, and to higher parts of ourselves, in higher aspects. We are here to embody the gods and goddesses in their pristine forms. The gods have been slayed. They have been ripped from us, and they're asking to come forth in a new way.
When we first started channeling with the Stargate, and I was working with a friend of mine, and that we were, playing around with channeling, and we were doing whatever we were supposed to be doing. And all of a sudden, she just started laughing out loud, like a voice I'd never heard before, like never. And I was working with her, and I was like, well, who is this? And this person came through and gave me his name. And he's like, well, he's never been in a human body before. And he was like talking about how it felt to be in the hands and the arms of this body and laughing and just, and I said, well, why are you here? And he said, well, because you asked me to come in. That was my first experience with channeling. And the reason why I did what I do now is to ask to talk to Isis through you, or like Shakti, I asked to talk to Adama, because when this particular friend of mine channeled, the channel that came through always wanted to talk to me. So she was channeling and I was asking questions and they were talking to me. And it was a really cool experience. And it was like just very strange. It's a very strange thing when somebody embodies somebody else and then they're talking to me outside. I'm not channeling, they are. And it was a really, really a specific experience. One time, my friend actually started channeling and she was in a cave, scared to death. And it was the time of Jesus and Mary Magdalene during the Essenes, and Jesus had just been crucified. She's channeling a person that is in a cave with 3 other people, and they are terrified for their lives. And that particular person was me. So she was channeling for me. And so that's where I got the idea to ask people that channel questions, because it happened many, many times that way for me.
I fought this for a long time, I'll have to say. I remember the first time that I was with Perky in Alcazar, and he said, you can channel and you can channel and you can do this. And then I was like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm going to study neurobiology and I'm going to do. And so what I didn't talk about before is how one of the ways that I actually really stepped into channeling was when I started working with at-risk youth. I worked at a short-term rehabilitation center. It was a place where adolescent teenage boys were sent. It was the last stop before they were shipped out of state. They were deemed unfit to be in society. They were a danger to themselves or to society. And so these were really aggressive kids. And I went in there with this intention that I would never, ever be hurt, that I would never restrain a kid, because they teach you how to do all these different restraints. And I was like, I'm not doing that. There is no chance in hell I'm like taking down a 17-year-old boy, or, people are getting hurt. And so I would go in there and I would, if there was a kid that I had to work with, I would ask to connect with their higher self. I would create a Stargate and say, okay, my higher self is going to work with your higher self. And I'm going to ask that we come and create a situation that is for the good of all of us. And then I would go into this like little bit of a trance state and begin to like sense something coming. And I would create these interventions that were just off the wall, yet they always worked. I mean, I got really, really good at it, where I could, if kid's going to go an AWOL, because then you have to like go after them and search them through the woods. And I was like, it's 110 degrees. I'm not doing that right now. So I was like, like making him, now he's all pissed off and coming towards me. And I just like heard the guidance of like, keep going, call him forward. And I'm like, now this kid is charging at me. And in that moment, I heard just like, relax. And I just relaxed and I put my hands out and I said, hey, come on, I'm not mad at you. I'm not doing. And just for me, listening and knowing that exact moment to like shift and to change my voice and to change my body posture, he calmed down. We had a beautiful, amazing opening. He opened up to me after that. And it was beautiful. I didn't get hurt. I mean, he was cursing and telling me he was going to cut me and kill my kids and go, break my car. And I learned how to trust and to open myself up to something higher, because it was for the good of others. It was for the good of these kids. It was for the good of myself, because I didn't want to get hurt either. And so that really was what forced me to just be open to this guidance of something higher than my own brain.
I'm hoping we might be able to do this again sometime, but thank you and much, much, much gratitude to the time you have spent with us today.
Thank you, Diane. This was such a pleasure and so much fun to be here. I am honored to be a part of this project and to work with you, and I'd love to come back and share more. So stay tuned, and thank you again.